Musical transitions for an artist may be a good or bad thing depending on what genre they're switching to. However, for the case of Natalia Lafourcade, her genre shift hasn't been too drastic. It's just a little more folky. We saw her shift into South American folk music and Mexican folk music on her 2017 album Muses Volume 1, quickly following that album up with a Volume 2 in 2018. She had a huge role to play in the soundtrack to the movie Coco, and now this is her follow-up to those previous volumes. The first volume of Un Canto por Mexico is again another foray into the sounds of Mexican folk music. We have mariachi as well as son jarocho and a few others. I mean, there is a smorgasbord of musical ideas on this record. At a sprawling 63 minutes, this is a very dense, textured, layered, and beautiful folk album. This record isn't entirely different from what those Muses volumes were doing, and the instrumentation and the sound palette on this record is something that isn't too out of the ordinary for her. But what's really lovely about it is how well all of these songs come together. A lot of the same instruments like Spanish guitar, a little bit of an accordion, as well as amazing strings and horns. Pretty much on nearly every track you also have some percussion that comes into the mix, whether it be hand percussion or something else. What Natalia does is take these songs and these sounds and put them in such a way where it feels very organic, very natural. And while doing so, she puts together these songs with all respect to Mexican culture and music. I said earlier, this record is lush, it's dense, it's full of just happy instrumentation and gorgeous songs, like the opening track, which features a mariachi band, and it's an incredible opening track. First of all, it's incredible. During the chorus of this track, you have these choral samples that just add so much to the song, along with the strings, along with the guitar. Natalia's singing is so well done, and the lyricism across this entire record is incredible. It's immaculate. Not every song is, as lively and luscious as some songs on here. The track VERACRUZ, for example, is more of a quainter, quieter cut. It still has a lot of punch to it. It's a song more or less dedicated to Natalia kind of showing off her incredible vocal performance. Now, not every song on this record was made for this album. Songs on here were more or less reworked and repurposed for this album from other projects such as Muses Volume 1 or 2. But even then, the reworked and repurposed songs just have another character, another sound to them that still feels very much to the Mexican culture that it's from. Another thing to note about this album is that the compositions are great and the production is amazing. Everything feels so natural and lovely and organic too. I will admit, on initial listen, I didn't think much of this album. I didn't really take the time to listen to this record very closely, but once I did, and once I spent the time with this album, it really appeals to me in a very beautiful way. It is a gorgeous, layered, and dense adventure through the sounds of ranchera and Mexican folk music. Natalia also uses her collaborators on this record to really enhance the overall sound of a song. Everything seems so purposeful, everything seems so correct, and everything seems like it's in its right place. Sound-wise on this record, there isn't much of a misstep going on within any of these songs. But the one thing that I guess kind of hinders me from really loving this album is the fact that this record, I feel like, could have definitely been trimmed down to the best crop of songs. And while there are some very serene and blissful songs that really exist in their own little world, I definitely think Natalia could have really trimmed the fat around this album. And I also feel like that sometimes the guest collaborator working on a song doesn't contribute the same amount that Natalia does. Her duet between Jorge Drexler on the track Para Que Sufrir is one that I kinda feel is a little mild. Despite the horns being very beautiful and lovely, the song as a whole just kinda fell flat for me. That's the same with Mexicana Hermosas as well, featuring Carlos Rivera, and other than those songs and a few other missteps in this album, it's a really solid project. I appreciate the ambition on this record, and I do love a lot of the songs on here, despite the album as a whole running a little long for me at least. It's definitely an album that I would recommend to you. Definitely a great album from anywhere other than the United States. Check this album out, please. This album is great. It is pristine, it is well done, it is well performed, well crafted, well arranged, well made, and just overall really beautiful, serene, blissful, and nice. If I can describe an album in that way, this album is nice. Personally, this album is a very strong B+. However, I am curious to know what are your thoughts and opinions on this album down below. Let me know what albums you want me to review next, and that is it. Like, comment, share, do whatever you want. Let me know how I can improve future videos down below. Remember, this is only my opinion because music is subjective.